Welcome to this episode of Case Bites. My name is Ryan Gibbons. I'm an emergency medicine physician at Temple University Hospital in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I am also board certified in point of care ultrasound, and I run the program at the hospital and the med school for point of care ultrasound. Today, we're going to talk about how to use point of care ultrasound while inpatient in the hospital. So, for a lot of our internal medicine colleagues, how to utilize this at the bedside. And this is something really important as far as internal medicine goes, and really any sort of primary care field, because we're seeing the expansion of point of care throughout the internal medicine world. We're even seeing it at Temple, where a few years ago we weren't using it at all, and now we have an established curriculum, we have a fellowship. So this is something that internal medicine docs are really going to become quite familiar with and will be utilizing quite often. So let's dive in. All right, just so you're aware, I do get a little compensation for this talk. I would have done it without it, but let's not tell them that. Moving on. All right, the lone intern. So if there's any interns watching this, we all feel your pain right now because you're probably in the hospital alone or just came home from the hospital after being overnighting alone, and the nurses call you, and there's a young lady that's admitted. She's complaining of shortness of breath. You're scared. You're not sure what to do. It could be anything going on. Maybe pneumonia, anemia, pneumothorax, pulmonary embolism, heart attack, heart failure. Like, what the heck? There's way too many things that could be going on in a young female admitted to the hospital. You're just covering for the night. You don't know much about her, but you're worried about her. You're confused. You're lost. You start thinking, what can I do? All right, you're going to order an x-ray, no doubt. You're going to be getting blood work. You're going to get an EKG. Let me tell you, that x-ray tech isn't coming up anytime soon. The blood work, whenever they get around to running it, they'll get back to you. You can do an EKG, and hopefully you are doing an EKG as you're watching this to make sure there's no evidence of heart attack or pericarditis, myocarditis. We're seeing heart attacks in younger and younger individuals as risk factors like diabetes, obesity, hypertension become more and more significant. But aside from the EKG, there's not much that's going to happen in real time. And unfortunately, your physical exam is very limited. Its sensitivity and accuracy in most things is not great. It's what we had for the longest time. We had nothing else. But now, in today's world, what do we have? We have point of care ultrasound. And why are we using point of care ultrasound? Well, first and foremost, it's safe and accurate. It happens at the bedside. You're the one performing it, interpreting it, and making real-time clinical decisions. And you're limiting any kind of unnecessary radiation associated with CAT scans or delays. And most importantly, it's going to make your patient super happy. They love to look at the images alongside with you, and you can show them what's going on in real time. So not only is it the right thing for the patient from a safety, accuracy standpoint, but most importantly, from the patient satisfaction. We want our patients to be happy. All right. So when can we use point of care ultrasound? Certainly, this is one case where you have a young patient that has shortness of breath. You can also use it in chest pain and anybody with abnormal vital signs. Certainly, you can use it in many other indications, but since we're specifically just talking about shortness of breath, we want to really focus on some of the modalities that we're going to be using specifically for shortness of breath, chest pain, or abnormal vital signs. So we're going to look at cardiac, lung, and DVT ultrasound today. We're just going to review them. We're not going to try to overwhelm you. We just want to show you how you can incorporate this into your everyday practice. All right. So for your focused cardiac ultrasound, these are the views where you're going to place the probe to get your views, and you're going to use the phased array. What are you going to be looking for? Let's keep it simple. You're going to look for the 5 E's of echo. The entrance, the aorta, the IVC. The exit, the aorta, just making sure you were paying attention. Ejection fraction, how well is that squeeze doing? Effusion, is there fluid building up around the heart and impeding its contractility? And finally, equality. Are the sizes of the chambers, the ratio, is that changing? And if it is, why is that happening? So this is kind of a very simple approach to point of care cardiac ultrasound. Remember, it's not comprehensive echo. We're looking for yes, no answers. What might we see here? So we're looking at a pretty normal heart in the four traditional views: the long axis, the short axis, subxiphoid, and apical four chamber. So if you look at them all, they all have a nice, good squeeze as far as ejection fraction. There's no fluid around the heart. The chamber sizes all look pretty normal. So you can be reassured that in this example, we see normals here. Let's contrast that to what we might find in this young lady. So if we look at the left and the right screen, that left ventricle is not doing much of anything. It's a very reduced EF. Is it heart failure? Is it cardiogenic shock? What's going on? We look down here, we see fluid floating up around the heart, compressing the right ventricle. That means you're going to have an obstructive shock there with tamponade. And finally, the top one here, we're starting to see bowing of the septum here, creating what looks like a D here. And if it's an acute process, you're thinking PE. If it's a chronic process, well, there's a number of different things that it could be a chronic one. But what I want to try to emphasize here is you're getting real-time feedback and answers to your question, where it's starting to narrow your differential, if not give you the diagnosis. So when they come in with chest pain, shortness of breath, anything like that, I really advocate that you combine scans, not only doing cardiac, but think about lung, think about potentially DVT, think about IVC. So for lung ultrasound, these are the main areas on the anterior aspect of the chest and on the flank that you're going to look at. You're going to use a linear for the chest wall and then the curvilinear for the flank there that we can see in the bottom of the screen here. So what are you going to be seeing on lung ultrasound here? You're going to see ribs here, and then you're going to look in the intercostal space. You'll see that pleural line sliding. You'll see a reflection of the pleural line called A lines. And I want you to kind of look closely at the pleural line here and compare it to the pleural line over here. You don't see that kind of sliding motion. And in this case, if this is what we saw in this patient, she would have a pneumothorax. The other thing you're seeing is something we call a lung point sign, where you see normal lung come in and then it disappears. And that's pretty darn specific for a pneumothorax. Fortunately, this young lady had normal lung sliding on both sides. So it kind of ruled out that pathology. What else might we see? So B lines, what are they? They're an interstitial process. They either signal fluid, fibrosis, or if they're focal, you think about contusion, pneumonia, things like that. You may find a subpleural consolidation. And basically, this could be a number of things. It could be a pneumonia. It could be a contusion. It could be a PE. It even could be cancer. Now, the important thing to note here is they must be pleural-based. Otherwise, you won't see them. And then finally, the spine sign. What we're seeing here is an effusion. We see liver here, bright white diaphragm, and then we actually see the spine. We don't typically see the spine in the thoracic cavity because normal lung obscures your view. But when fluid replaces the lung, you can actually see the spine here as bright white with black shadowing. So if you see this spine sign, you know there's an effusion there. One note on the IVC, it's worth looking at, that if it's collapsing, they might be volume down, and it's also unlikely that it's any sort of obstructive shock. So you see that collapsing there? Compare that to where it's not collapsing at all, and that could be a sign that they're volume overloaded, but IVC is not great for volume status. But what this could tell you is that it could be heart failure, it could be COPD, it could be PE. So you can kind of incorporate it somewhat, that it may help depending on, how much it changes with respiration. So is it collapsing like we see down here, or is it very plethoric? And that'll help kind of guide your differential in combination with heart and lung ultrasound. The one thing, I know I didn't mention this, I think initially, but DVT one, when you're concerned about a young, healthy female, hospitalized, post-op, potentially on birth control, and she has the findings down here of that D sign that we talked about, you really should look for a DVT. And what we're seeing in this example here, her one side is normal. We're seeing that vein collapse nicely. The other side here, when we compress, we're not seeing it collapse at all. And actually, we're seeing a little echogenic material inside the vein, and that's pathognomonic for or diagnostic for a DVT. So when you have the D sign down there with a DVT, you have your answer. This is a PE. You don't need to go get a CAT scan, especially if they're critically ill. And so what do we do in this case? So I put up an example of what you would see on CT. This young lady did not actually get a CT. She was too unstable between what we were seeing on cardiac point of care ultrasound and what we saw on her DVT ultrasound. We were actually gave her TPA, and she did exceptionally well. So it's the difference maker. Point of care really altered our management in this patient's case. I know we're all excited. We're like, we got to get out and do point of care ultrasound now. Everybody needs a scan. I caution you just to remember your limitations and the limitations of point of care ultrasound. So patient body habitus, no matter what scan you're going to do, is going to affect the image quality. So you just got to be aware of that. If you don't get the images you need, you got to move on to the next diagnostic modality. Your experience, certainly if you're not practicing this, your image quality is going to suffer. So the best thing you can do is to practice, and really utilize this on most of your patients. When we think specifically about heart and lung ultrasound, trauma, chest wall trauma can really affect your views. And then specifically for cardiac views, a hyperinflated lung like COPD or emphysema can really obscure your views. So I think the most important thing to take away from this is to understand your limitations, the limitations based off of the patient, and the limitations of point of care. It is not perfect. It has its limitations. I'm going to say that many times, apparently, and just be sure to understand that and move on to the next study if need be. All right, so your take-home message with point of care ultrasound, also known as bedside ultrasound, it is fast. It's happening at the bedside. You're performing it, interpreting it, making decisions based off of it. It's accurate. There's so much evidence out there that the sensitivity, specificity, all the diagnostic characteristics really are being shown to be superior to physical exam and plain films. Bedside, I've said it multiple times, point of care, also called bedside ultrasound. It's happening at the bedside. You're limiting any kind of risk moving the patient from, a monitored area to CAT scan, things like that. And finally, I'll say it one last time, remember your limitations, remember point of care ultrasound limitations, and even the limitations based off of the patient's status and habitus. All right. Thank you so much for listening. Please feel free to reach out. I'm more than happy to share my experience, answer any questions. My email is below here. We also have the sonographic superheroes, the Temple Ultra Squad here. We have our Twitter and website information down there. Please feel free to reach out. The point of care community is very collaborative, so we're always willing to help. And finally, I would like to thank you for joining us for this episode of Case Bites. We look forward to hosting you for future episodes. Thanks a lot.